Welcome back to Whispering Pages. If you were here for part 1, welcome back. If this is your first time with this episode, a brief word. Tonight is the second half of a 2-part journey through the 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Part 1 covered who Ferriss is, the core deal framework, and the first 2 phases, definition and elimination. Tonight we finish the journey. But first, as always, a moment for you. You're here. You made it through another day. And whatever that day held, it's behind you now. The decisions, the noise, the weight of it, none of it needs to follow you into sleep. See if you can set it down, the way you'd set a heavy bag just inside the door. You're home. You can leave it there. Let your body settle. Feel the places where you're supported, the mattress beneath you, the pillow at your head, the floor of the room holding everything steady. You don't have to do anything right now except be here. And here's the thing about that. The 30 minutes before sleep is genuinely one of the most powerful learning windows your brain has. The transition toward rest makes your mind unusually open, and what you absorb in this window consolidates deeply during the sleep that follows. So you're not just winding down. You're learning in the most efficient way your brain knows how. In part 1, we explored what Ferriss calls definition, getting honest about what you actually want, running a dream line, using fear setting to face the risks you've been inflating, and elimination, the 80-20 principle, Parkinson's law, the low information diet, and the case for protecting your attention like a finite resource. Tonight, we finish the deal framework. We'll get into automation, virtual assistants, the muse business, testing before you build, and liberation, remote work, geoarbitrage, mini retirements, and the deeper question underneath all of it. We'll also take an honest look at 2 books that go further where this one leaves gaps. And we'll name clearly where this book falls short. Get comfortable. Close your eyes if you'd like. And let's whisper through this one together. The third phase of the deal framework is automation, and this is where the book shifts from philosophy to mechanics. The central move in automation is outsourcing. Not outsourcing in the abstract corporate sense, but the specific, personal practice of removing yourself from tasks that don't require you, so that your time can go entirely to the 20% of things that only you can do at your level. Ferriss opens this section with a concept that was almost radical when the book was first published: the virtual assistant. A remote worker, often based in India or Eastern Europe, often hired through platforms that have since multiplied dramatically, who handles administrative tasks, research, scheduling, correspondence, and a surprising range of other work for a fraction of what a local employee would cost. He walks through the entire process: how to find candidates, how to test them with a small paid task before committing, how to communicate clearly enough that they can operate without constant direction. He's careful to note what this is actually for. It's not about cheap labor. It's about removing yourself from tasks that don't require your particular judgment, so that your attention goes where it actually creates value. The goal isn't a lower payroll. It's a fundamentally different relationship with your own time. He tells the story of a friend who used his virtual assistant to handle an emotional family situation, researching therapists, sending flowers, coordinating a difficult conversation he didn't have the bandwidth to manage himself. Ferriss uses this not to suggest outsourcing your relationships, but to illustrate how narrow our imagination tends to be about what can be delegated. Most people think assistant means someone who books my flights. The scope is far larger. The other half of automation applies to business itself. If you run, or want to run, a business, Ferriss describes what he calls a muse, a small, automated enterprise designed from the start to generate income without requiring your daily presence. The Muse isn't a passion project. It's a vehicle. And the point is to design it for your absence before you've even started. The ideal Muse product has a few qualities. It targets a specific, identifiable customer. It retails in a range high enough to support decent margins but low enough that most buyers won't need approval from anyone else. It can be explained clearly in one sentence. And it can be fulfilled, stored, packed, shipped, and supported through third parties, so that the entire operation can eventually run without you in the middle of it. The options for what that product looks like are broader than they might seem. Ferriss covers physical products sourced from manufacturers and resold at markup, information products created once and licensed repeatedly, and expertise packaged into courses or consulting programs. The common thread isn't the format, it's the design principle. Build once, sell repeatedly, remove yourself from every step that doesn't require you. What makes this section stand out is the testing methodology underneath it. Ferriss is almost allergic to untested assumptions. Before you build anything serious, before you invest in inventory or branding or infrastructure, you find out whether anyone will actually pay for it. His method: create a basic landing page for the product, run a small pay-per-click advertising campaign. He suggests around $250 spread over 5 days, and measure whether people click through to the order page. Not whether they complete the purchase. Just whether they express interest with a click. If nobody does, you've lost very little and learned something real. If the numbers look promising, you invest more. The data tells you what no survey or focus group ever can. What people actually do when given the chance, not what they say they might do. He applies this same discipline to pricing. Don't guess what your market will bear. Test 2 price points simultaneously and see which converts better. The market will answer the question more honestly than any analysis. This approach, test with small stakes before committing large ones, is one of the most transferable ideas in the book. It doesn't require a Muse business or a virtual assistant. It applies to any decision where you're tempted to build before you've validated. He also spends time on the architecture of a fully automated business at scale. A toll-free number answered by a trained call center. A fulfillment company that handles all physical logistics. A payment processor with daily reporting. In the early stages you build the FAQ yourself, document every question that comes in, and create the systems manually. But you build them with the explicit goal of eventually removing yourself. The founder's job isn't to run the machine. It's to design one that runs on its own. The fourth and final phase of the deal framework is liberation. And this is where the book earns its most devoted readers and its most skeptical critics at the same time. Liberation is about location. Ferriss argues that most people have made a silent, unexamined trade. They've attached their income to a fixed place. They must be at a desk, in a building, in a specific city, on specific days, in exchange for their paycheck. This arrangement feels permanent. It rarely is. He addresses 2 types of reader here. The first is the employee who wants more flexibility, some version of remote work, at least some of the time. The second is the entrepreneur who has built income that's theoretically portable but has never actually tested that portability. For employees, he offers a deliberate negotiation strategy. The approach isn't to walk in and ask for remote work. It's to make yourself indispensable first, then create a short-term trial away from the office, a legitimate reason to work remotely for a week or 2, and document carefully that your productivity held or improved. then use that evidence to negotiate a longer arrangement. He's methodical and unapologetic about this. The goal is to change the arrangement, not win an argument. He's also clear that this doesn't work for every job. Some roles genuinely require physical presence. Some managers will never accept it regardless of evidence. But many employees have never tested the assumption that their arrangement is fixed, and testing it, even once, sometimes produces surprising results. For entrepreneurs with automated or semi-automated income, the path is more direct. Move. Not permanently. For a season. Ferriss calls these mini-retirements, extended relocations, typically 1 to 6 months, in places where your income goes considerably further, your old routines are disrupted, and you're forced to discover what you actually enjoy when you're no longer performing productivity for anyone. This is where he introduces geoarbitrage, the practice of earning in strong currencies and spending in weaker ones. He gives specific cost of living figures from his own travels. Living comfortably in Buenos Aires for under $1,500 a month, Berlin for around $1,200. With even a modest automated income, the lifestyle available in many parts of the world is extraordinary by any conventional standard. $1,000 a month in some cities buys you very little. In others, it buys you a furnished apartment, daily meals at good restaurants, language lessons, and a pace of life that most people in expensive cities can't afford even at 10 times the income. He's not suggesting everyone leave permanently. He's suggesting that the assumption "I must stay here" is often less true than it feels, and that testing it, even briefly, tends to produce a more interesting life than never testing it at all. He's also honest about what actually happens in the early weeks of a mini-retirement. It's often disorienting. People who've spent years defining themselves by their output don't know what to do with an unscheduled Tuesday. The boredom that arrives isn't a flaw in the plan. It's the first honest signal about what you might actually want when the noise stops. Many people discover, for the first time, what their actual interests are, separate from what they've been telling themselves their interests are. The book's deepest philosophical argument is embedded in this section. Ferriss distinguishes between two models of living. The first is the deferred life plan. Work hard now, sacrifice now, save now, so that someday, at 65 or 70, when you're tired and your joints hurt and everyone you love is already old, you can finally live the life you wanted. The second is the model the new rich practice. Distribute the living throughout the journey. Take the trips while you're healthy. Learn the language while your brain is still plastic. Do now the things most people save for later, because later is not guaranteed, and it arrives differently than imagined even when it does. He's not arguing against financial prudence. He's arguing against deferring experiences, curiosity, and joy as though your future self will be a better steward of them than your present one. The evidence, he suggests, is not on the side of the deferral. There's a story he returns to that stays with you. A friend who'd always wanted to learn to tango kept putting it off. Not enough time, not the right moment, maybe next year. Then she realized she'd been saying next year for a decade. What seems like a small delay in any single moment can accumulate, quietly, into something much larger than anyone intended. The liberation section is the part of the book that most readers remember longest, even if they never negotiate remote work, never take a mini-retirement, never move anywhere. Because underneath the specific advice is a question that's hard to hear. Am I building a life I actually want, or am I building toward one I might want someday, while spending the present in ways I wouldn't choose if I were paying attention? The 4-Hour Workweek sits in a rich tradition of books that challenge conventional thinking about work, time, and what a life well-designed actually looks like. 2 of them are worth pausing on, not just for comparison's sake, but because each one goes further than Ferriss in an area where his book leaves real gaps. The first is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, published in 2023. Martell covers similar ground: the cost of doing low-leverage work, the case for delegation, the importance of building systems that don't require your constant presence, but from a fundamentally different vantage point. Where Ferriss writes for the individual optimizing their own escape, Martell writes for the founder who already has a team and needs to free themselves from it. The practical mechanics are different. Martell goes deep on how to hire, how to hand off ownership of outcomes rather than just tasks, how to train replacements through recorded video rather than manuals, and how to design a team that scales without you becoming the bottleneck. The gap Martell fills is the organizational layer that Ferriss largely skips. The 4-Hour Workweek tells you to outsource and automate, but is relatively thin on what happens when your business involves real employees, complex customer relationships, and the messy human dynamics of a growing team. Buy Back Your Time is almost entirely about that layer, and it's more grounded, more specific, and more forgiving of the messiness that actual businesses involve. If Ferriss opened the door, Martell explains how to build a larger house once you've walked through it. The second is Deep Work by Cal Newport, published in 2016. Newport is in some ways a philosophical counterpoint to Ferriss. Where Ferriss wants you to minimize your working hours, Newport wants you to concentrate them, to do fewer things with far more intensity and depth. Where Ferriss sees the answer in outsourcing and elimination, Newport argues that what produces the most valuable output isn't how little time you work, but how deeply you engage with difficult problems when you do. The gap deep work fills is one Ferriss never really addresses. Once you've eliminated the noise and created the space, how do you actually use that time at the highest level? Ferriss gets you to the blank page. Newport tells you how to work on it in a way that produces something genuinely hard to replicate. For anyone who takes seriously both the liberation Ferriss describes and the craft that makes that liberation worth having, these 2 books read best in sequence. Start with Ferriss to design the container. Read Newport to understand what to put inside it. Now, the honest critique, and there's enough here to be worth sitting with seriously. The most obvious limitation is audience. Ferriss writes throughout as though his reader has the flexibility to take 3 months off, test a business idea with $250, hire a virtual assistant, and potentially relocate abroad. For a first-year solopreneur with thin margins, a single parent with inflexible childcare, or someone in a job where the work genuinely cannot be done remotely, significant portions of this book shift from instruction to aspiration. He acknowledges this occasionally. He doesn't dwell on it. There's also a question of privilege that the book sometimes glosses over without fully acknowledging. The gap between hiring a part-time virtual assistant and outsourcing your grocery shopping is significant. The book occasionally blurs that gap in ways that can feel tone-deaf if you're not in the income bracket where it's invisible. The expert positioning advice in the automation section has also aged poorly. Ferriss suggests that becoming a recognized expert in a field involves joining trade organizations and listing yourself on a media directory. This was a more viable shortcut in 2007, before information became radically abundant and attention radically scarce. Building genuine credibility today is a longer, more demanding process. And there's a deeper tension the book never fully resolves. It argues for maximum personal freedom, and then, in its most honest passages, acknowledges that complete freedom from structure and obligation can feel hollow. The mini-retirement chapters quietly admit that unstructured time without purpose is its own kind of poverty. The book points toward meaning without quite landing there. None of this cancels out what the book does well. The deal framework is genuinely useful. The fear-setting exercise produces real results for real people. The 80/20 analysis, applied honestly, changes how most people see their commitments. And the core question, are you actually building toward what you want? Is one that not enough people have the courage to ask seriously. But go in with eyes open. Take what's useful. Apply Ferriss's skepticism toward default arrangements to Ferriss's own prescriptions as well. So what do you actually take away from all of this, as you drift toward sleep? There are 4 ideas from these 2 episodes that I think deserve to travel with you, not as instructions, but as quiet lenses through which to look at your own life. The first is the relative income insight. Your salary or your revenue figure is not the honest measure of your financial position. The honest measure is what you earn per hour of your life. Once you start thinking about your time the way an investor thinks about capital, asking what return you're actually getting on each hour, your decisions start to change. Meetings that consume 3 hours to accomplish what an email could have done in 10 minutes start to look different. Commitments that pay you less per hour than your time is actually worth start to look like a quiet tax on your own potential. The second is the practice of fear setting. Most of us avoid major changes not because the obstacles are genuinely insurmountable, but because we've never honestly mapped the worst case. Writing down the worst that could happen, honestly assessing its likelihood, and thinking through how you'd recover. This simple exercise deflates most fear-based paralysis. Not because the risk disappears, but because it becomes concrete. And concrete risks are manageable. Vague fears are not. The third is the test before you build discipline. Ferriss applies this to muse businesses, but it generalizes. Before investing heavily in any plan, a new business, a new role, a new arrangement, find the smallest possible test that will tell you whether the core assumption is valid. A landing page, a pilot, a short trial. The $250 validation campaign isn't about saving money. It's about replacing guesswork with data before the stakes are high. The fourth, and perhaps the most lasting, is the question the book keeps returning to. Not how do I work better, but am I building a life I actually want? These feel like the same question. They're not. The first is a question about optimization. The second is a question about direction. You can be extremely good at the first while completely neglecting the second. And many driven, capable people are. The book's most quietly radical claim is this: successful people aren't living well because they are rich. They are rich because they learned early to do what they love, and to remove themselves, systematically, from everything that isn't that. The income follows the design, not the other way around. That's not universally true. It's probably not true for everyone in every circumstance. But it's true enough, often enough, that it deserves more than a dismissive eye roll. Before we close, there's much more in the full book that we couldn't cover in this 2-part summary. The complete set of entrepreneur case studies, the detailed scripts for negotiating remote work with specific types of managers, the extended travel preparation timelines, and the appendices covering tools and resources for every phase of the deal framework. These sections deserve your attention. The link to grab a copy is below, and it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. 4 takeaways. 2 questions. 1 framework. And underneath all of it, a permission that most books don't give you. Permission to stop treating the life you actually want as something to be earned through sufficient suffering first. Permission to ask, right now, with whatever you have, is there a version of this that looks more like what I care about? You don't have to answer tonight, but the question is worth carrying. So as you drift off tonight, here's the one thought I'd leave you with. Think about something you've been putting off, not because it's impossible, but because it feels like it needs the right conditions first. The right time, the right resources, the right version of you. Ask yourself, honestly, what would it actually cost to try a small version of it? Not the whole thing, just the smallest viable test. A single step in the direction of it. Ferriss's deepest argument isn't about virtual assistants or 4-hour weeks. It's about the distance between the life you're living and the life you'd design if you believed it was available to you. That distance is almost always smaller than it feels. And the gap closes not with a dramatic leap, but with the first small honest step. Carry that thought into sleep. Let it settle somewhere quiet. And see what's there in the morning. Sleep well. And we'll see you at Whispering Pages for the next one.